Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. On November 8th, 2008, Nick Saban was in the visiting locker room under Tiger Stadium before the game against LSU. And minutes before kickoff, Nick Saban gathered his Alabama team around, stood up in front of them, and basically said something of the effect of these words. That from this point forward, what people are going to know us for and know us as is that we go out there and we're going to make their ass quit. We're going to dominate the man in front of us and we're going to make their ass quit. That's what people will know us as. And Alabama went on to win that game in overtime over LSU. It's a speech that has gone down in Alabama lore. Make their ass quit. Not just physically, but mentally. Make their ass quit. And from that point forward, it bled into every single game Alabama played for the next decade, especially games against LSU. And LSU, from that point forward, in a lot of ways, had a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not what LSU endured, it's how LSU endured it versus Alabama. They often sat around saying, well, something bad's just going to happen. I know it. Something bad's going to happen. I got to know it. They're going to get screwed over by the refs. They're going to get screwed over by a call. There's going to have some flukish play on the field that goes Bama's way, goes against us. Oh, maybe it's the bye week. Maybe that's the problem. Let's just get rid of that. No, that's not the problem. Bama just made you think that was the problem. See, what people don't realize is that Alabama is the most penalized team in the SEC. Alabama had more penalties than LSU Saturday night. Alabama got bad calls against Tennessee that should have gone the other way earlier this year. The call of the fumble for Alabama that was overturned against LSU, guess what? That was the right call by the letter of the law. It's a stupid rule, but it was the right call. The fingertip pass that was called pass interference in overtime and wasn't overturned, one angle you could tell, maybe he tipped it. The other one, you couldn't tell at all. But even if every angle showed that it did look like he tipped it, and to me it did, it's still up for debate. They missed the call. Okay, you know what? At some point, stop complaining, go to the next play, and win the damn game. Jeray Jenkins got called for holding that wasn't holding on the first big run of the night. Okay, fine. Stop complaining, make Alabama's offense go 3 and out on the next drive. LSU did. Alabama got their fumble back on that bullshit rule. Stop complaining. Go make them settle for a field goal. LSU did that. Harold Perkins got face masked on that long scramble touchdown pass from Bryce Young when Alabama went up 21-17. Yes, he did get face masked, and they didn't call it. It was a blown call. Now stop complaining and go score a touchdown. LSU did that. The ball was tipped. The ball was tipped. You know what? It probably was, but they didn't call it. Now go win the damn game in overtime. And guess what? That's what LSU did. Every LSU-Bama game has bad calls. Every LSU-Bama game has crazy plays. The problem was LSU has had bad leadership for over a decade and a bad loser-ass mentality. And I'll admit this to you right now, I was one of them. And I'd be lying if I said on that last drive of regulation where Alabama was driving to win or tie the game, I was thinking, please no TJ Yeldon play from 2012. Just no TJ Yeldon play. Please no unnecessary roughness call like in 2014. Please no Patrick Peterson interception called back in 2009. Please don't let that happen. LSU made the choice to not have that loser mentality in the game Saturday. That is a choice that you make. Because every time Bama took the lead in this game, LSU responded with a score. Every time Alabama scored to take the lead, LSU went right down and scored and took the lead back. Go make the next play. See, before the game, I said LSU had to do 4 things to win. Things that I believed LSU had the ability to do that would help them win. But they just had to go out and do it. 1, don't start slow like you have been. Well, LSU took the lead first in the game. 2, don't make dumb mistakes on special teams. LSU dominated field position in special teams, especially 3 punts early on with Jay Bramblett, Tuscaloosa native, pinning Alabama deep. 3rd thing they had to do, use Harold Perkins and B.J. Ojulari against a weak and unsustainable Alabama offensive line and contain Bryce Young within the pocket. And guess what? They did that, especially in the first drive that Alabama had, where they made Bryce Young throw an interception in the red zone. And fourth, LSU had to run the ball on the interior of Alabama's weak defensive line. And LSU did exactly that. Look, there's nothing you can do about the true freshman tackles not being as experienced and mature and as strong as the grown men of Will Anderson and Dallas Turner on the edge. Nothing you can do about that. You can't make your freshmen stronger overnight. You can't make them more experienced, more mature overnight. It is what it is. So find another way to run the ball. And they did that. And on the stat sheet, LSU outrushed Alabama. And if you actually take away the sacks on Jayden Daniels, LSU ran for over 200 yards and 7 yards a carry on Bama. I knew LSU was capable of doing those things, but I didn't know if they would do all 4 of those exact things for 4 straight quarters. But that's why I picked Alabama to win the close game, 31-24. And when LSU went down 31-24 in overtime, at that moment, never in my life have I hoped and prayed so hard to look like an idiot in front of all of you. Please, I do not want to be right. Please, I do not want to be right. But at that exact moment, just around the start of overtime, a fog blew in from the Mississippi River. The TV broadcast pointed it out. The fans in the stands saw it as well, especially up high. A large cloud of fog began to cover Tiger Stadium. And in that moment, when Bama had the ball and the tipped pass wasn't called a tipped pass, it was almost as if that fog was the ghost of Billy Cannon and the ghost of Paul Dietzel and the ghost of Bernie Moore and the ghost of Y.A. Tittle and the ghost of Jim Taylor. They came haunting down on Brian Kelly and his team and told them, make their ass quit! You make their ass quit!
Get him off. Daniels for the win. Caught. It's good. LSU does it. Mason Taylor.
And at that moment, a new king of the SEC had been crowned over Nick Saban. See, LSU was always the dynasty that never was. Every single decade for the past 100 years, it was almost if that came to an end Saturday. No more corrupt politicians trying to control halftime speeches from Bernie Moore in the 30s and 40s. No more Paul Dietzel winning a natty and beating Bear Bryant every single year and then leaving for the Army job. No more Bo Ryan dying in a plane crash. No more cheap and useless athletic directors. And no more NFL teams throwing gobs of money at your head coach to steal him away. That shit was over with that night. It's not luck, it's a choice. And Brian Kelly chose to go for 2. And that motherfucker got it. Now, did this game mean something to Brian Kelly? I bet it did. He'll deny it, but it did. He said before the season,
yeah, I want to beat Nick Saban. Who doesn't want to beat Nick Saban? You
sure.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to play him in the regular season. It's the standard, right? That's
Right.
the standard. Now, after being in the Midwest my entire career, where most people said, well, you can't do that. You can't go down there and win in the SEC. You're not from there.
that's why he came to LSU. Because in the previous 9 seasons at Notre Dame, Brian Kelly only had 2 top 10 wins in those 9 seasons. In his first season at LSU, Brian Kelly has 2 top 10 wins. He's already matched that. You get better players, you get bigger wins. And the second Brian Kelly got players that were remotely close to the talent and remotely close to the athleticism, especially on the perimeter of Alabama, he beat Nick Saban. And yet all I heard this offseason, well, Brian Kelly can't call out Nick Saban like that. Why? Saban knows he has a target on his back. Well, Saban is going to get angry at him. So what? The fucker's always angry at everything all the time. Well, Brian Kelly poked fun at Nick Saban by wishing him, hey, happy birthday, Nick, on Monday. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Nick Saban has a birthday like everyone else. Nick Saban walks and talks like everyone else. Nick Saban drinks his coffee in the morning like everyone else. Nick Saban wipes his ass like everyone else. It's all in your head this entire time. It's all in your head. You're quitting before the game even starts. You're quitting before the drive even starts. You've got it in your head because he put it there and you chose to believe it. But now you have a head coach who is mentally strong enough to not make a bigger deal out of it than it should be. Everything that Brian Kelly did that night, everything Brian Kelly does is about winning and winning efficiently. Practices, his schedule with the media, his recruiting, his game day routine. There is no wasted motion with this guy. And you know what? He outcoached Nick Saban Saturday night. Not just, well, he had much better players or a deeper roster than Alabama, because LSU does not. LSU has 62, 63 healthy scholarship players, former walk-ons, players that hadn't played together for a long time with each other at all. And it's not like this was a fluke win. Bama didn't have a bunch of fluke plays that went LSU's way. On the contrary, LSU had a bunch of freak plays and calls go against them. LSU didn't score on some crazy trick plays that caught Alabama off guard. LSU just straight up outcoached Bama. Bama had guys running to the sidelines off the field, coming off of a timeout. Bama was disorganized, coming off of timeouts. If that's not incompetent, I don't know what is. If that's not bad coaching, I don't know what is. LSU's coordinators, Matt House and Mike Denbrock, were so unpredictable with their play calling. They kept Bama on their toes the entire night. Straight up outcoached them. Look, I don't know if this is truly the end of Nick Saban's dynasty at Alabama. I don't know that for a fact. I don't have a crystal ball to know 100% sure. But has Alabama looked vulnerable the last two seasons? Yes. Has Nick Saban been looking older and older every single year? Well, yeah, I mean, that happens to everybody. Has Nick Saban been making bad coordinator hires lately? Yes, and I think part of that is the more likely explanation for why Bama's teams have been losing physicality and discipline. But here's what I do know, is that Bama will still be an SEC contender as long as Saban is around. That much I know. But what I also know is that LSU has a great, elite, Hall of Fame football coach that is actually going to stay for LSU for the next decade and build a dynasty that they always should have had, but they never got the chance to do. And if that does happen, then we'll always remember that that dynasty started on the 5th of November, 2022, the day the ghost of the Mississippi fog flew in as LSU went for 2 points and made the earth shake twice. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in the description link below.